on here. So stop recording. This session is being recorded. Okay. Okay, back into it. So I'm now recording it. I won't start again for your sake rather than mine. Okay, so that's the receipts and payment journals. You can then do bank transfers. There's not much to do here really. So you can just you can transfer money between your accounts. As you can see, there's not really much that I can show you. So there's an exchange rate function there. So you can see it's grayed out at the moment. So on Palladium, there is a multi-currency feature. So if I was to select an account that is a foreign currency, then it will ask us to apply an exchange rate. And the exchange rate, we have an auto-update feature. It pulls it from a third-party website that we use. I forget the name of it, but then it auto-updates every day. And you can set a minimum maximum tolerance to the exchange rate, just in case it doesn't work in your favor one day. It won't allow you to process if there's a big change in the exchange rate. Or you can apply it manually. So again, it will just bring through a default exchange rate, but you can always change it to something you want at the time of processing. And also quite a popular feature on Palladium that clients tend to like is this view journal entry. So on every processing document, if you see this, you'll know there's journals that have been processed in the background. So you can always just click on here and see the journals. So in this account, we can clearly see what happened. So no surprises there. Deposit slips. Again, it's not quite a straightforward one. Just close the screen, still open. Yeah. So from accounts, let's do account and the amounts we're going to deposit. And again, we're going to call it training. Zero value deposit slips. So okay, so it's asking us how we're going to break it down. I think there's 1,500 I put in there. Yeah. So I've been working in support for a year and a half. It's like some of these features, you know they're simple when you've been working in support for a year and a half and no one's ever asked a question about how it works. So it's quite a straightforward one. So there's going to be cash. You can segment into what the breakdown of the cash exactly, but I just did a check amount here for simplicity. Also, as I see these other features, so if you ever want to see what user processed a transaction, you can just click on here. I'll tell you exactly which user did it and on which date. So I'm currently logged as the administrator. So but it only shows you the last person who made the change. So there's a new feature. So I know I'm going a bit off topic, but I'd recommend that you all subscribe to our YouTube channel. That covers all the new features that are coming out and just gives you a quick overview. Like for example, there's one here which is document adjustment tracking. So every time a document's adjusted, whether it be a journal entry, a purchase invoice, sales quote, etc., you'll be able to trace at which stage. So if there's 5 adjustments on an invoice, you can see that Trevor did it on the first time around. You can see what changes he made. Tom did the second one. So at the moment you can only see the very last user, the last person who did the last adjustment. But this new feature here, I'd recommend you give the video a watch. So I'll just put the link in the chat. Definitely worth having a look. So that feature allows you to monitor every stage adjustment, so you'll be able to see exactly what user's done what. So I know we had a client today who phoned in and said they'll have a disciplinary hearing for their employees because of what they recorded. And this type of feature would really help them see exactly what they've done and monitor all of their user activity. Anyway, back on the path. So that's the deposit slips, and then we also have bank reconciliation. So here we'll select our bank. So only one bank showing up at the moment. which means it's the only bank that was set up for bank recons, basically. So if there's a bank that's not showing here that you think should be, the reason would be this. So if I go to bank, I just want to see which one's showing. I'll show. So 1060. So if I just go to accounts, we'll come into this section in a bit more detail shortly. So if you go to this third tab, save transactions for account reconciliation. So if there's an account you want to add for recon, you just have to come and tick this option. But you're all on a support contract, so if you forget that, you can always contact us and we'll remind you. So this message, because I'm on a sample company, it's just letting us know that it hasn't been reconciled before. So this is just a once-off message that you'll see the first time you do a bank recon. And also a common question we get from new clients as well is that they say that there should be more transactions than what are showing at the moment. This is only really from new clients. Again, because it's the first time I've done the bank recon, there's just one extra step. So if I come in here, these are the ones which they'll be saying, oh, they're the ones I was talking about. These are the missing ones. So I'll just select all, press OK, and then they all populate here. The reason is for that, they'll do transactions against a bank account, but then only afterwards they'll set it up like I just showed you for bank reconciliation. So that they're hidden in the from GL. So that's where you'll find it. But again, it's just a once-off thing, really. If you're starting off with Palladium, these are the type of things you might come across. So on here, so as normal, really, so you have your statement start date and your statement end date. And I have the flexibility of changing these to whatever dates I wish at the moment. And again, that's because it's a sample company, it's the first recon I've done. So if I were to record this transaction now with the statement date, end date of 1st March, the next time I come and recon for this account, this top field will be grayed out and it'll be the 2nd of March. And I won't be able to change it. So it's just because it's the first time I can determine what date I'm starting from. Over here we have our opening statement balance. So this is as per your printed out, or it might not be a hard copy, but a soft copy of your bank statement. And this is the closing the closing statement balance as per your bank statement. And this is what the system's telling you should be the closing balance. So if all goes well and you've captured everything correctly in Palladium, you haven't missed out any transactions, any payments, any receipts or whatnot, then this value should match as per the GL and reconciled. So, and this shows us the unresolved amount. So as I go clicking away, it decreases the value. So if I come down here, keep going, and in this case, it's telling me that I've captured everything successfully. There's a 0 unresolved value. My bank statement matches my ledger balance. So we normally advise clients to do this. I mean, you don't really need advising, but we do get some calls now and then where they'll say it's not balancing, and then we'll go look at it, but they haven't done a recon for the past year or so. So it's extremely difficult to track what transactions are missing or whatnot. There's a client here who had the last bank recon they did was in 2014, and they bought over the company, so they wanted to do a bank recon. And it's obviously not, unsurprisingly, it's not balancing, so they have to go back 3 years and just see where it's missing, what hasn't been captured on Palladium, or if something's been captured that shouldn't have been captured. So it's best to do it as often as possible, really, just to make sure everything's captured correctly. Recon, what's it saying now? Reconciliation dates can't be before closing start date. Okay, this. Okay, so I can't take the day forward. I'll tell you now why, so I'm just going to change that back. It's because this is the financial year end. So the financial year end on my sample company is the 29th of February. So I can't process into the future period until I've closed off this period. So now I can record it. Just to show you that, so my system date is 29th of February, and I can check my financial year here, and my financial year end should be the 29th here. So you can see it's my financial year end. So I can't process into the next period yet.
Quick question.
Sure.
Is there a feature or way where we can download electronic transactions from the bank?
Yes, so I think you came in a couple of minutes late. So I was briefly saying that when I started, I'm on a test version of version 10 at the moment. So there's a new feature that's coming out that I have here, which you guys won't have. So if I go into business, there's a feature here called Bank Manager. So just whilst you've asked the question, I'm just going to go into it. So this is exactly what you're talking about. So it's not available yet. It should be available within the next 6 weeks. That's been on the side of caution, really. So if I come here, I can import a bank statement from the bank. So I can choose.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I can choose my bank, and I can go. So I've been doing some of the testing. So let me just have a look if I can find. Just give you a brief look at what it's going to look like. Where do I save these files? Testing. Bank statements. GT Bank. So I'm importing my bank statement now. And then it's populated it all through here. And then we can allocate it to certain vendors and certain customers, etc. And you can see this one's
That's excellent.
Yeah, you can see here it's automatically applied the vendor to this one. So you can set up mapping so it recognizes the description.
Nice.
Yeah. And then it populates it here. We can allocate it against receipts and so forth. But once it's released, we'll do a bit more of a more elaborate training on it. But just to give you a heads up of what's coming. So we were hoping, so we were hoping it had been released by now, but it's still in testing because there's been a few issues picked up here and there, but just small things really. So just being on the side of caution, I'd say 6 weeks. I'd say.
Very powerful. That.
No, it's a great tool. Yeah, it's going to help clients a lot. Yeah, so it'll save a lot of time for sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks again. So yeah, so you won't see this icon on your screens at the moment. Another major new feature on version 10 is GL segmentation. So before you could only go down to 2 segments. So I have my 4 digits here for one segment and then these 4 digits for my second segment. So, but now we can go down to 10 levels deep. We can create 10 segments. I've yet to see a client who's using as many as that. I think the highest one's coming to 5 segments. So it's particularly useful in larger companies maybe who have a number of branches and many departments. So I'll just show you where you set that up. So at the moment I've got the default one, and yours might, if you're not using GL segmentation, this probably looks quite similar to yours. So I'll just close here. And so the first step of this setup is in the control panel, and then we go to company options, and it was under general, but I know they've moved it here now, so it's underneath company. So GL account segmentation. So you can see here we just got our 2 segments. So now if we were interested in creating a third one, we can just create on here. And you can see the 10 segments here. So I'm just going to create the 1 extra segment for now because creating 10, it follows the same principle you just did multiple times. So let's say we have one for, so I'm just going to change this to branch because I want to use the example for department. And I'm going to make this numeric, and here we can choose the number of characters. So our default one here is 4 and 4. Let's be a bit different. I'll make it for 2. So now this is asking me to set up some departments. So I'm going to create one for sales, marketing, 02, marketing, and say support. Okay, so when I click OK, so it takes me to this screen. I'm just going to minimize this screen. So if I miss any chats, I'll just move that out of the way. Yeah, so this first page that comes up is, so you're mapping the old account numbers to the new account structure. So any values, so this is our old account structure on the left-hand side over here, and this is going to be our proposed new one. So nothing's taken effect yet until we click OK. So this is just showing us the changes that will take place. So all the values that are sitting in these accounts will be moved into here. So this is like the new main account. So if I click here, it's adding a 02 or a 03. So, but we can at this stage, it's just asking us to create the new one so it knows where to allocate these values to. We can always come back and do it for these. So I'm just going to put everything to sales. Click OK. Yeah, good message. Let's have a look. I'm going to change this back. This is my everyday life and support, a bit of troubleshooting. Let's go back here. The character cannot be 0. Okay, let me just do a quick one. Marketing. Other items depend on this item.
There's probably transactions that exist without the third segment in history. That's probably what's causing it.
Yeah, it's a good theory, but it shouldn't make a difference. I've done this 100 times, but yeah, I know where you're coming from. What am I missing? Just bear with me a second. I'm just going to go into another database quickly.
While that's coming up, can I ask a quick question regarding
Of course you can.
applying the you showed in the example three departments, sales, marketing, and whatnot.
Yeah.
But would you not want to have, let's say, a generic 00 or corporate level, because your balance sheet items, normally you're not going to have a bank account assigned to sales or marketing.
Yeah.
Usually it's going to be your P&Ls.
Yeah, no, you'd have your main accounts. Yeah. So like a client I was at the other day, they're using their segmentation for their branches. So their head office one would be the 0000, and then their sub branches would be the 1000, 2000, etc., etc. Is that what you're implying? That's the same.
Yes. Yes. Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, another reason for it might be because I'm on the testing version as well. Because I did run through it this morning just to make sure it's fine, but I wasn't on the testing version. So if you don't mind, just a couple of minutes should be enough. Any other questions? Also just waiting for this to load. See, I did the exact same kind of example this morning on this database here. Let's just create a fourth one. Zero. So like that, I think you meant. And then we'll do our sub-accounts. Okay, same message. I'm going to have to check that one out, but you can see that I've set it up here. So basically just that message that didn't come up. So here I've set up one with department, and I've got the 2 digits here. So if I now go to my accounts, you'll see that there's it's triplicated the account numbers here. So previously it was just the 10000000, and etc. etc. And it was just one once, but now it's multiplied it by the number of departments that I've set up. So it does give the option if we only wanted to do it for, like your question was, we could just do it against head office. You don't have to do it against all of the new branches. So you'd have one. So you'd have one at company level. So I wouldn't have one at, like you were saying, with sales, marketing, or support. You'd have a company level one as well, which would probably be put at 00, genuinely. So then to set up a new account, let's have a look at something we can set up. Let's create a revenue account for, let's do it for training. So look. Okay, so we've got some here. So I'm going to create a new one for, and we're going to put it under support 4020. So to create a new account, we just go to new. So if you're not on version 10, you'll see that the way you create an account on version 10 is slightly different. So if we're going to create a new account based on segments that are already previously set up here, you just go straight into build. So this is our main account number. So we're happy with that one, and then we're going to use training here and then here. So that was quite a simple process. So we've now created a new account here. But if there's a new segment that isn't already pre-existing on the system, in that case, so I don't want to create this account, so I'm just closing that, and I'm going to create new again. So in that scenario, if there's an account number here that doesn't exist that you want to use, like for instance, there isn't 1010, so you can't use it because it doesn't exist yet. So you'd come to here rather, add edit account segments. You'll simply type it in, and fix that, computers. You just populate all this information, click OK. So now if I go to build, you'll see that it shows here. So we can now utilize it. And again, if we have a new department that's been set up, the same applies. So instead of going to build, we'll go to edit account segments. So perhaps your company is expanded and you want to set up a new department. So let's say we'll set one up separately for, let's say, human resources. And you can change this as well. So I want to close out, so we're going to build, and you'll see we have the new account number now. And it uses the description that's at every stage. So the 1000, the description for that is fixed asset, and this 00 is vehicle, and the 04 is human resources. So it brings this through by default, depending on what's been predefined. But you can always change this to whatever it may be. HR, PCs, or whatever it may be. And if you're opening a new account, you can always input an opening balance as well. I'll show you the account if I remember the account number. Let's have a look. So HR, yeah, there's our new account number with the opening balance that we just applied here. So that's how you set up a new account on the GL segmentation. So when I upload this video, I'll upload a second one just running through the GL segmentation part again, just see which step I missed. So I'll upload those two together. We've got a list of all the attendees today, so we'll just send a link to the two videos to everyone who's in attendance. So moving on here, we have departments. Yeah, is there any questions on the account structure here, by the way, as well, on the setup?
No, that was very clear. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And then we have departments. So it's probably quite redundant now in a way, especially in my example where I've used the GL segmentation for my my departments. So maybe if I used a different example, I wasn't using departments, then here, then I would set up marketing, sales, and support or so forth. But it doesn't have to be necessarily that type of department. Again, another client I was at last week, they're actually using the departments as their branch locations. So they set one up for, let's just go into, and I'll just use them as an example. So let's say this one is JHB. So it's not actually a department, it's a location, a warehouse. So JHB, Cape Town, 2000. Put that in there, and I'm using their example quite literally. This is their 3 locations. Yeah. So on every transaction document, it will be covered in more detail in the other days, but if we go to a sales invoice, you'll see at the bottom of the screen there's a department here. So this can be set up and be determined by either by the customer you're using or the vendor, or it can be determined by the user who's logging in. So I'm logged in as a colleague of mine, Anthony. So we might say, well, he works in the Joburg branch, so every transaction that he captures should be allocated to the Joburg department. So it's just a default. It can be changed if the user has the correct user security rights to change it. So like, for example, in me being part of the support team, we do use department as its title really, as support, sales, etc. So whenever I do a sale, my default department is support. So then they can run various financial reports depending on based on segments. So you can filter it by segment. So I'll come back into the reports, but just to show you what I'm talking about. So here we have income statements. This is all at company level. But if you scroll down here, you'll see there's a separator here for departments, and you'll see, so we can have balance sheet by department, income statement by department. So that default department again, yeah. So just to show you what I mean, it's set up. So it's either set up by user. So if I come into a user in the control panel, you can see here, default receivables department. So because Anthony works in Joburg, we might link him to Joburg for every document. So every time he does a purchase order or a sales order, it'll default to that location. But if you don't want it to be determined by the user itself, you can have it determined by your customer or your vendor or whatever. So I know I'm bouncing into these areas briefly. Again, these will be, I think, accounts payables tomorrow and accounts receivables on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But just in the master file of the customer here, you can see department. So they have a default department. And then you can choose whether the default department on the sales invoice is determined by the customer or the user logging in. So that's your department. And then moving on here, we have account sets. So we've got various ones here. So they're almost like inventory categories, but more from a financial perspective. So I'm going to go into this account set that's been set up here. And so it basically determines when you make a sale of items that belong to this account set, your revenue is going to write to different places based on what account set's linked to the item. So perhaps the best place to start is actually in the inventory. So again, if I just go into the inventory master file, I think the inventory is going to be covered next week, Monday, if I'm not mistaken. But just to show you where the account sets comes into place. So before version 10, you could only link an account set by item. But on version 10, you're able to link an account set by item, by warehouse. So you can see here, so whenever this item's sold, it'll write to different revenue accounts or different cost of sales accounts, depending on which account set it's been linked to. So this is where it's set up. So in an ideal world, if you want the most specific reporting possible, you'd have a different account set per item, per warehouse. So you can compare where your most revenue is coming from that item and your highest cost of sales is for that item. So this all linked to the same account set. It's going to be quite difficult for you to separate where its revenue is coming from which warehouse. So that's where it's set up to begin with, but the account sets is actually created here in the general ledger. And here you define where the revenue is written to and where the cost of sales is written to. And these are the GL accounts that are set up over here. So it's up to you how specific you want to go. You might want, because by default in the sample company, there's a inventory A, cost of sales account, inventory B, inventory C, but you can add to that. Then we have our journal codes. So quite a common question we get, especially from new clients, is so if they're doing, let's say, an purchase invoice, and they select the vendor, and let's close that, and they want to process into a GL account, and they'll say, oh, well, why isn't it showing on this screen? Well, the reason for that is usually, like at the moment you can see it's just purchase discounts. So the reason is for that is journal codes. So you see purchase discount is the only one that shows here. So the journal codes is more of a security setting really. So you can determine what GL accounts you want your users to be able to process into. So if there's an account you need someone to process into, you just go to Code Builder. And you'll see all the other accounts here. So normally, like new companies, they don't really know, they'll find out over time and their users say, I can't process into this account, and then they can come back and add them if they deem appropriate to do so. So if I come here and click, let's say, you want to process into petty cash sales, and it's now here. Well, a common one is like computer. Let's have a look if we've got some computer costs. Yeah, I can't see it there, but anyway, you get the gist. So now if I go to a purchase invoice now, we can select our vendor. So this method, again, this will be covered in tomorrow's training because it's accounts payable. This is just letting me know that this vendor has open GRVs that haven't been converted to an invoice yet, but we're not going to worry about that today. So this is filtering by the one vendor at the moment. So you can now see the petty cash marketing, I can now process against it because I've applied a journal code to it. And another nice thing with the journal codes is, so when you do set one up, the description, it defaults and uses the GL accounts description, the one that's set up over here. But I mean, in this case, the description makes a lot of sense. But if we go to Code Builder, perhaps there isn't one that's too obvious here. I mean, most of these are quite self-explanatory, but so sometimes the description of the account isn't so obvious. So, but you can actually, so if I click this one, you can actually change it. So your end user, your employee might not know what LAN support means. So you can actually call it something else. Perhaps it's a GL account for your expenses on coffee and milk or whatever it may be. So when they come to processing, they know exactly what that GL account's for.
Quick question.
Yeah, sure.
We can process more than one of these on a monthly basis. These are not one per month only, are they?
No, not at all. So this is a one-step setup, really. So once it's in this,
Yeah.
you can process against it forever, yeah, until you come here and delete it.
Excellent.
So if it's
Thank
all,
you.
yeah, so if it's all deleted and this is blank, that means we can't process into any of them. Yeah. So it's just a one-time setup. A lot of these things are for when you're just starting off on Palladium, really. And these are the quite common queries you get. Why can't we process into certain accounts? That's the journal codes. Then we have profit centers. So another common question we get is what's the difference between a profit center and a department, really? So as I showed you before, the department, it's down here at the bottom of the screen. So here, I can select one department for this entire document. So department's at document level. Whereas the profit center, you can split a transaction amongst numerous profit centers. So I'll show you in practice. So I'm going to come here. Let's make sure I've got a couple of profit centers set up. I did in my other company. If you don't mind, I'm just going to go back into the company I started on. Any questions whilst we wait here for a second? I'm just going to open up the chat, see if I've missed anything here. Okay, I've got one attendee saying they're having issues connecting to the audio. Is anyone else experiencing any problems with the audio? That message came through 20 minutes ago, so it might be a bit late to ask. I'm just going to type in the chat just to confirm. Any problems with the audio?
No, it's fine for me.
Yeah, I assume so for you. Yeah. Just maybe there's a reason you're the only one asking questions. Yolanda, I know you let me know the sound was fine at the beginning. Can you hear me, Yolanda? You just let me know in the chat. Okay, perfect. Where was I now? Okay, yeah, profit centers. I think I'm in the other company I was in. So I've got a couple of profit centers up here. So again, let's rename these ones. So I'm going to use my department examples, which I keep going back to. So let's say we have a profit center for sales, and we've got one for support. So let's go to another purchase invoice also. I'm going to do a payment. So let's go back to the GL, and we're going to do a payment for, let's say, telephone expenses. If I do have an account for that, there we go. Telephone equipment and costs. So let's put it in there. And let's say we've spent 1,000 Rand on our phone bills for the month. So with the departments, we can only do it at document level. You can't do it on the receipts and payment journals, but with the profit centers, you can split it. You can allocate it to numerous centers. So in my case, I've used departments again. Thanks for the feedback, Yolanda. Yeah, so if I now select centers, no amounts were generated. Let me go to purchase invoice in a second. So you can only allocate to a profit center once the transaction's been recorded. So you can see now it's become luminous. The same with the project, so we can allocate against projects. Again, that will be touched upon on another day. So if I come in here, no amounts that are able to be allocated against a profit cannot be allocated against a profit center. Small troubleshooting. Okay, so it's got more than the one line. So see when I've clicked on profit centers, it says user template. So I haven't got one set up at the moment. Well, I do have one set up. So let's go see the one I've set up first rather than showing you that. So if I go back to the GL, so we've got our profit centers here, one for sales and one for support. And if we come into our templates, so this is predefined basically. So if I were to select this template on the processing document, it would allocate 40% to our profit center for sales and 60% for our profit center for support. So that's if you have your template set up. So it's easier for users to just to select one. But if you want the flexibility of deciding these percentages at the time of processing, you can do so. So let me just put that into practice again. So if I go back to my sales invoice, and we go to profit centers. So here, user template, I can select that and click OK. Then it's going to allocate, I think it was 40% support and 6% to sales. But if you want the flexibility of doing it manually now, at the time of processing, you just select manual enter amounts. And it comes up with this screen here. So we're going to do sales, and we're going to allocate to support as well. And we can change the percentage here. So let's use 65. Yeah. So we're going to allocate it in this way. So look, record 350, channel 26. So it's so we're doing it for the sales inventory, so for our revenue, and also the cost of sales. So I'm just going to allocate the cost against, probably none of these would be applicable in a real life setting, but I'm just going to do it against support, and we'll do 100%. So again, they are similar to departments, but you can set up percentages rather. So I know a lot of clients who use that will tend to ask, because it's difficult for their users to remember to go and select centers. So there is a way that you can make it a mandatory field, and you can also have a pop-up. So if I go back into company options, so if you're ever not too sure on the full functionality of Palladium, I always recommend coming to the control panel, really diving into the options, because you'll see there's a lot of settings in here. So it's always worth taking a look. So if I come in profit centers, automatically prompt user on entry. So if a user does a purchase, it will come up automatically with that screen where it says please apply a template or manually input your percentages, etc. Yeah, any questions on the profit centers at all? Before I have a look.
That's an excellent. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's an excellent tool to apply overheads to factory and office as well, because you might have square footage determinations of departments, and you might have insurance or heat, light, and power, and so on. This way you can evenly distribute it automatically. You set it up in your budget, and you just do it, and it's you don't have to worry about the calculation on a monthly basis.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a much better example than mine. I hope everyone can hear that too. But yeah, exactly that. No questions from anyone else? You see, you've all given me feedback on the sound. Just before I have a look at the reports, has anyone got any questions on anything, or maybe like me to recover something? Okay, I'm just going to go and proceed. Also, a part of the agenda for this training is, before I forget, because we have our general ledger module, so it's easy to focus just in this section, but also setting up linked accounts. So if I come to the control panel and we come in here for linked accounts, this is where it's all set up. So you're setting up your default accounts, so for like accounts payable, so that's our creditors control accounts, and we have our debtors control accounts here and so forth, and your sales discount, etc. So every time you apply a discount, it'll write to this entry, and same with deposits. So this is where it's all predefined here. So if you're starting off with Palladium, this is the first step you start at. Whenever I'm doing implementation, this is step one. So I know I had a client a couple of weeks ago, they took over another company, and the accounts were in a mess. They said the discounts and revenue is right into the same account. So straight away I came in here and I saw that the accounts receivable, here the control account, was also the same for sales discount. So they couldn't separate, so according to the GL there was no discounts being applied really. So that took some time to fix. But so this is step one, to make sure it's set up correctly for manufacturing, work in progress, etc. Other relevant things here, so this is where your currencies are set up. So there's a lot of flexibility. These are all the currencies that we can cater for. You can also add more. But like I mentioned before, we have that auto update feature. So this is the one, these are the currencies that works for. And to set up the auto update, you come in here, the exchange rate feature, and you select your currency, and I don't think my company's set up for it, but we can schedule your automatic updates. So if you only want it to be once a week, you can select Monday at this time. So it does need to be set up on the server. Let me just see if it populates it. So we did British pounds. Yeah, so mine is set up. So you can see it's pulled through the currency for today.
Quick question, where is the source of these exchange rates? Is this World Bank or is this internal?
It's not internal. It's a third-party website that we use. I have been told once before. I could probably dig into my emails. I can come back to you on that if you don't mind. Not exactly which.
Not a problem.
It is.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, I'll just make a note of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if there's any questions like that I can't answer, I'll put it into the email with the links to the video as well. So I'll make a note of that one. I do have it somewhere. Yeah, so I just did update now, but if you want it to be automatic at a certain time of day, you just put the time in here. And here you set up your, if you're going to do it manually, you can put your exchange rate here. And if you're using the auto update feature, here you can put the minimum rate and the maximum rate. So if the exchange rate ever falls out of this, your tolerance, it won't allow you to record transactions. It will tell you it's outside your accepted parameters. I think other things that are relevant to the GL, we've got our tender types here. So when we're doing receipting and payments, so I guess we'll be covering this more in the accounts receivable and payments. But here you can see, you can set the default account that it goes to. But this will be covered on tomorrow and Thursday. So just going back into the general ledger. So these are all the reports that we have on Palladium. These are all the inbuilt reports. I always remind clients if there's ever a report that you can't see, I mean, because we're running on the latest SQL technology, we can generate any customer report that you require. So these are inbuilt ones, but you should never think that we're limited to this. We can generate any customer report you want, really. I can't remember saying we can't do that to a client once about building custom reports. So these are the inbuilt ones that are available. at this time.
A quick question as well. I presume you're able to export the trial balance to Excel?
Absolutely, yeah. So every single report in Palladium, well, let's use your example, go into the trial balance, and here, so every corner of every report you'll see this. Export as, we can export it PDF, Excel, Word, and you can also email it directly in these formats as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that applies to every report, yeah. So these are the standard reports that we have. We have our balance sheet, income statement. So I don't know if there's any specific reports you want me to go into. I'm not going to go into every single one. And again, yeah, if you're using foreign currencies, it'll bring in an exchange rate and calculate your income statement based on that. So at the moment you can see the options here for the filter. We have current, previous and historical. So because this is just a sample company, I don't have a previous year or historical years going back 3, 4, 5 years. So only current's available. But if you have a lot of history, I know with other of our competitors you can only view data in the current and previous year. But on Palladium it keeps history for life. So if you're on Palladium for 10 years, you'll be able to run your income statement as of I don't know, March 2008, depending on how long you've been on Palladium. So you'll be able to view all of your history going back as far as you've been on Palladium. But you'll only be able to process and adjust documents in the current previous financial year. So there's a lot of reports in here. Just have a look at which ones stick out. Most of them are quite standard. Let's have a look. So on Palladium you can have as many databases set up as you wish, and if you want to run combined reports, integrated reports, you can use this multiple company one. So you can run a combined trial balance or wherever it may be. I'm trying to open that now. So it just asks you for your server details. So you only have to set this up once basically, and then only certain users will be able to run this report depending on your user security rights. And then you can run, I can't think of the right report, the name for it, but you can run combined reports, so we'll combine all of our companies. So when I was logging in out before, you would have noticed I had 5 to 10 companies there.
This is not consolidation though, is it?
That's exactly the word I was looking for, yeah, consolidation. So it consolidates the report.
So, okay. Right, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, if I just go in a couple of these reports here, so we have general ledger transactions report. This report, I mean, a lot of clients use it, especially at year end when they're going to the auditors and they want to show them their opening and closing balances. You tend to use these reports here, along with your trial balance, of course. This is a message when I was testing, so I'm on the testing version. On your versions, I'm sure this doesn't come up. I've already mentioned that with our junior developer. So I can't run that report this time. We have our sales and tax report. And yeah, so this looks like it's just repeating itself at the top, but to remember, these ones are in relation to departments. So this splits your balance sheet by department, income statement by department, etc. General ledger. I think that's pretty much it on the GL. So I'll look at anything I can think of. Let's have a look at the control panel. Reason. All this stuff will be covered over the days, but I'm just going to look what's relevant to this section. That's pretty much all. Your financial year is defined here in the company setup. Our date settings. And your question earlier, if you can still adjust and process in the previous year, if I can try, I could do a year end and show you. So if you go into a year end, you process a year end, there's an option, you just have to untick it. So if it's ticked, it means you can't process the previous financial year. If it's unticked, you can. Again, yeah, I'd recommend visiting the website because you see the Palladium year-end procedure. So I did a video on exactly that to ensure that you have the ability of processing the previous financial year. Unable to obtain exclusive mode. So there's another user connected here. Yes, I think that pretty much covers everything on the GL side. I mean, is there any questions or anything you'd like me to recap? If you're all in attendance tomorrow,
This is
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
quick question off topic. Will you be sending us, the resellers, the link to the version 2 of the V10?
I know.
In terms of the big...
Yeah, we haven't been, because I know in our newsletters we've been sending out links, but that one we've been doing it upon request, really. So if you send a special request...
Well, I sent a request.
Well, have you sent one already?
I did, but is there a particular person to send it to?
Can
I send it to you?
Yeah, you can send it to me because I have the link. I'll just have to get permission to do so, but it hasn't been a problem in the past, so I don't see why.
Okay.
You just can't give it out.
Okay, very good.
You just can't give it out to clients yet, basically.
Yeah. No. Well, I can always. I don't like to bother Stephen, but I can always ask him.
No,
He said he's very busy.
No, just send me a mail. Yeah, I'll just probably get confirmation. I'll probably end up getting confirmation from Stephen anyway, but if you just send me do it through. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, so just put me a mail.
Thank you so much. I'll do that for sure.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
Thank you. No problem.
Sure. Thanks for the question, John. So what I'm going to do is we've got a list of everyone's email address. So I'm going to upload them probably to Dropbox. I'll probably leave them up there for a week or so. So when you receive an email, I'll include the link to each video. So I'll probably up by the end of tomorrow, I'd say we'd have this one available to everyone. And any outstanding questions. So I just have the one outstanding question about the auto update. What's the source? Yeah, no problem, John. Yeah, if you're busy, yeah, that's fine. So everyone's gonna get an email. Okay. Any further questions? Thanks, John. All right, so I think we'll leave it there. I'm going to